Hey guys, what's up? Okay, so yesterday my video got cut short, so I'm gonna try to check it every once in a while to make sure that it doesn't cut off because I've got some things to say. Okay, so yesterday we went over and we were talking about hurricanes and their ferocity, how much chaos they cause. And then we started talking about the categories of them. Okay, and I don't know how far I got. I don't think I got very far before the video cut off, but there are 5 categories of hurricanes. Now, you're going to ask yourself, why do we need categories for a hurricane? A hurricane is a hurricane. Well, that's what some people think, okay? I'm David. Please go away. Go, Mr. Murphy. They gave them, it was developed by this man named Herbert Saffer and Bob Simpson, how they got the Saffer-Simpson scale. And the reason that they did this was because when you hear the word hurricane, sometimes people start thinking about doomsday. And then some people start thinking about, oh, well, that's no big deal. I went through one 3 years ago, and I mean, it just blew my furniture around, and that's all it did. So people were starting to think this, hey, a hurricane's coming. Some people would go crazy. They'd be like, oh God, it's gonna ruin our house. It's gonna rip our roof off. And then some people were like, oh, whatever, I'm not gonna go to the store. I'm just gonna sit here and watch the storm go by, which sometimes can be true, all right? So what they did is they started developing a category for all these hurricanes to give everyone an idea as to what's gonna hit. So like for instance, Isaias was a minimal damage hurricane. It was a level 1 hurricane. When you heard that Isaias was coming, you probably did not go out and buy tons of plywood and put it over your windows and get tons of food and tons of canned food and tons of water, because you knew that a level 1 coming wasn't going to be all that bad. It's just kind of like some wind comes, and maybe your furniture on your backyard gets thrown around, your trash can gets tipped over, and some branches fall. You go outside and clean it up real quick. No harm, no foul, right? Just a really bad day, maybe, as far as that goes. But when you start getting into major hurricanes like the 3s, the 4s, and the 5s, if they didn't start categorizing these storms as these intense storms, then what happens if you go home one day and they're saying, hey, a hurricane's coming, and they don't tell you the level of it, but it ends up being a 4 or 5, and you get home and everything goes crazy. You got 125-mile-an-hour winds, the power's out, your roof is getting blown off, your windows are shaking, all the stuff in your backyard's getting thrown around, trees are falling, and you have no food, no water, no supplies. It's going to be a really, really rough day for you, a rough couple of weeks, actually. So that's why Bob Simpson and Herbert Saffer made this scale, was so that you could get some sort of idea as to what sort of storm was going to come for you. Rather than someone just saying, hey, Hurricane Charlie's coming, and everybody going like, oh, no big deal, it's going to be a 1. Everybody would have an idea of what kind of damage that it would do, okay? And all of them have a category. So like the winds for a 1 were 74 to 95 miles an hour, which is what Isaias was. I think we had some gusts of 99, but it was relatively a minimal damage hurricane. The one hitting the Gulf right now, Hurricane Sally, it is moderate damage. So they got 96 to 110 mile per hour winds. But the one thing that's going to really mess them up is all the water that's dropping out of the hurricane, and it's falling on the land, and it's going to flood everything. And flooding is one of the worst things you can have during a hurricane. That's what kills most of the people, is the water moving around. When you get to a 3, a 4, and a 5, you're talking about massive, massive damage, especially a 5. You're talking about a catastrophe. Your house torn up, your car turned over, things underwater, no trees standing, very little foliage on the trees, all the leaves are gone. It is a massive storm that takes out a lot of things. So just remember that, and they did it so that you could prepare. You know, they didn't want people to freak out, and they didn't want people to not be ready for these storms, so they started naming these categories off. All right, so far we've only had 1, 4, and all the other ones have been 1s and 2s. We had 1, 4, that was Hurricane Laura, that hit Louisiana, and it decimated the place. The place is just a mess. And tomorrow I'm going to show you winds from a Category 5. I'm going to show you damage from a Category 5, and then I'm going to show you damage from like a Category 3 and let you kind of see the difference. You know, I mean, I know there's like 20, 25 mile an hour wind difference between a 3 and a 4, but the damage can be extreme in a 5 and in a 4. So I hope you got something out of this lesson today. Tomorrow we're going to do some videos, and we're also going to look at some pictures. So I hope you're ready for it, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.